called Kaizor Innovation, and we're a strategic innovation company, and we help a lot of companies understand China and also the user experience innovation process. We worked with the post office, working with the Hong Kong Design Center a few years back, and the project was to sort of redesign the Mongkok post office on Butt Street. Okay. So it's now completed actually. The way we used design strategy and design research on this project is, instead of just making the space pretty, we actually interviewed 80 customers and staff. We were at the post office for quite a bit of time to actually talk to staff and customers and observe the needs that they have at the post office. So the whole purpose of research is to formulate a strategy for the design, right? Okay. So that the design is not random. It's not just come up with pretty interiors, because there's a function to the space. So what we identified was there was a lineup issue. For example, when people came in, they were confused about where to go because the signage was not clear, or it was not clear. It's because it was monotone and it was very long. Okay. So cognitively, people couldn't process that. Okay. And also, we found out that because of the internet, there was a lot of internet traders in Hong Kong. So they go to the post office every day at 4 p.m. and they have 100 parcels to send out. And that's a new customer group for the post office, because in the past people send letters, but now it's a lot more parcels that people send out of the post office. One person could take up 45 minutes or more at a counter space. So that created a lot of issues, right? Because the post office can't close at the end of the day. So because of identifying that, we came up with a lot of new features for the post office. For example, a packing table, or having people line up for parcels in one area versus mixing them all together in one line. And also an inquiry counter so that they can get the boxes before they line up instead of have to go back and forth several times. So design is really useful in the sense that design research is that after interviewing or observing all these 80 people, we came up with a pattern. And because it's very easy to assume that everybody goes to the post office and everybody sends letters, but that's not true. By coming up with what we call personas, is actually an archetype of the type of people who go to the post office. After the persona development, we were quite clear who the space is serving, right? So there were couriers who come in, couriers that serves SMEs in Hong Kong, small medium companies in Hong Kong, or people in their 50s and 60s who can't speak English so well. So, but then, a lot of the forms that were designed were more in English. And there were also travelers coming to Hong Kong to do this purchasing of figurines or cameras, and then mailing it out. But these people don't actually live in Hong Kong. They come here 4 times a year, and you wouldn't know that there's these type of people unless you do the research. Absolutely. And what personas is really helpful is it helps the whole team focus on who we're designing for, and also all the visual evidence, all the photos that we took on the research is evidence to convince the whole team, including people at the post office, which would not happen if you just came up with a design without any support for it. After the research, we had to demonstrate what comes out of the research, right? We had to show potential concepts. So we actually worked with a designer to visualize it. By that, what we mean is, for example, we did some on SketchUp, Google SketchUp, some concept on a packing table, because we saw that people were had a need for packing table because they were kneeling on the floor, like like really messy. So we had a visual concept for a packing table, and we also had a visual concept for the front of the post office could just become their brand color. Like very simply, they don't need to do a lot of work, and people would recognize the post office like when you walk past McDonald's, right? The post office had a lot of services that were hidden in brochures. Like you can send mooncakes to your friends and family abroad, or you can put your own face or picture onto the stamps that people didn't know about. So in the post office, we also visualized one concept where next to the escalator, we said, why don't you put all your services as advertising, like in the subway station? So we borrowed that idea. So being able to translate all those insights into visual concepts allowed the post office to see what could be.
Right.
You definitely have to involve the stakeholders all the way up front. And we actually did workshops and seminars before we even started. And also, I think the value of design research is because these people, the decision makers, even though if they're not involved in the actual research, there's evidence. It's like being a lawyer. You need evidence to make a decision. And I think in traditional design industries, it's more personal self-expression. And if you don't have evidence, it's very hard to convince other people. But if we see a pattern that's recurring, like we saw people kneeling on the floors, packing, and there were a lot of photos, right, proving that, then that would enable us to make a design suggestion that is valid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, design is not like this foo-foo kind of kind of thing that is like a black box. It actually makes it easier for the client also to understand design. Yeah, and strategically, I think design has, because of design strategy and research, I think design is moving up the value chain. So it's not just about I like this design and you don't like this design, and you would not go anywhere with that discussion. Because of user-centered design, we put the focus on the user. So now it's not about whether the boss likes it or not, or whether the designers like it or not. It's whether the design can serve the end user.